Hello friends, we are here with one more topic, which is how an agent-principal relation can be looked at when in some cases salaries are paid by the principal. So let's look at the example or a practical approach. So we have a multinational company which is dealing with one of the UAE agent or a distributor, whatever name we call, that's perfectly fine. In this case, the multinational company has deployed some of the resources to the UAE company, and the multinational company is technically paying the complete cost of the resources which are deployed. Now, how should we treat from a taxability perspective or VAT angle in these cases? Now, before we get into how the treatment of tax should be done, let's look at what is defined as an agent-principal relationship, which is there in the Decree Law number 8. Article 9 talks supply by agent. So it very clearly says the supply of goods and services to an agent acting in the name of and on behalf of principal is considered to be a supply by the principal and for his benefit. Now, in this case, how the treatment is, we'll look at in the next slide. And the second point, what the Article 9 talks about is the supply of goods and services to an agent acting in his own name is considered to be a direct supply by the agent and for his benefit. Now here the name or in whose basis the transaction is being conducted is very important. Now let's look at some facts or assumptions which I have used in this case. In this case, I'm using two assumptions. Point number one, the resources are working on UAE agent or distributor visa. That means the employees or the resources which are being paid by multinational company is being deployed under the UAE visa by the UAE agent or distributor, whatever name we talk about. And the second, all the contract, that's a labor contract, are between the resources and the UAE agent distributor. So these are the facts which we are talking about. Now let's look at what we just learned, what is an agent and principal. In this case, we cannot call this employee are working for a multinational company because they are not acting or they're not being deployed or employed by the multinational company. Now these resources are employed by UAE agent or a distribution. Since these resources are employed by UAE company, then based on the assumptions which we looked at, UAE agent or a distributor is paying salary to the resources. This is a fact. Second, the cost of salaries paid by multinational company and may be classified export of services in this case. Now, how and what all points to be looked at? Let's see the last slide, which I'm talking about, what we should be considering. So in this case, we have made it clear. This is technically not an agent-principal relationship, whatever name we call about. There is a direct employment being done by the UAE company, and hence whatever money is coming in is only on account of export of services. Now, before that we conclude, let's look at and let's review the documents in various parts and the points which need to be checked from the contract executed and define the place of supply. Now, these are the two pointers which we need to look at: the contract between employer and employee, who is an employer and employee in your case, the agreement between or the contract between the agent, distributor, and multinational company. So why an agent or a distributor is getting a money from multinational company? Is it for a services to be deployed in UAE or it is for something else? So these two angles are very important to arrive at the final conclusion what we discussed. And next comes draw the transaction structure. I always say don't look at a transaction at an isolation level. Draw a transaction, complete a structure, and you see if there is an export, there should be an import, purchase, expenses, whatever. So there should be a second leg of the transaction. So see where it is coming up. In this case, if let's say you are getting a money for the employees or resources being deployed in UAE, however, those resources are earning a considerable amount for maybe the products which are sold for multinational company, which are imported in a separate transaction. So these pointers need to be looked at very minutely to arrive at the conclusion. And the last thing which I talk about is in the event logic as provided in public clarification of zero rating of services. That means the person who is getting the services are not in UAE and all those things gets classified. Then only the zero rating of or export of services applies. So just to remind yourself, if you are getting cost of employees being reimbursed, it's technically not a reimbursement. It's an export of service. But yes, your terms are on cost profit basis or cost basis. That's the only difference. So logically, what assumptions we used? If resources are in UAE company, Second, the resources have the contract with the UAE company. Then whatever money which you are receiving from the foreign entity, and the foreign entity does not have a place of supply or a place of establishment in UAE, then definitely it will be classified as zero rating of services, which can be undertaken. But do ensure to look at the points which are there in the slide right now to make it effective. Thank you very much. So if you are liking the session and you want more updates to be received by you, just give a thumbs up and subscribe so that you keep getting all the updates and all the information which we are going to share with you. Thank you and have a great time.